right, welcome back. We're still in Matthew chapter 21. Jesus has made his triumphal entry into Jerusalem. He has looked around in the temple area, gone back to Bethany overnight, come back the next day, and that's when he cleanses the temple. Matthew doesn't include that, Mark does. And why did Jesus cleanse the temple? Because he was very angry and upset, obviously, over what was happening there. They had turned the worship of God into a money-making business operation, as it were, and exploiting people. And so Jesus set the record straight for how he feels about that. I wonder how he feels about it today. Probably exactly the same, when people take Christianity and make it into a money-making business, and that becomes the main thrust of what they're all about. Now, we just finished verse number 14 of chapter 21 last time, where Jesus is still healing the blind and the lame. And now we come to verse number 15. Matthew 21, verse 15. But when the chief priests and the scribes saw the wonderful things that he had done, what? Just healing blind and lame people. And the children who were shouting in the temple, quote, Hosanna to the Son of David, end quote, they became indignant. And this is one more revelation of their pathetic spiritual state. They've just seen another set of marvelous miracles, and that doesn't change their heart. They should have fallen on their faces and confessed that Jesus was Lord at that point in time. But then they see little children who are shouting out to him, Hosanna to the Son of David. They get upset about it. Now, that phrase, Hosanna to the Son of David, there's more to it, I guess, than maybe just you'd see if you just read it and didn't think about it. But you'll recall that in the Old Testament, David was promised repeatedly, and it was repeatedly stated that one day God would put one of David's descendants upon the throne of David, and he would be on that throne forever, ruling over Israel. And so many people believed that this great prophet Jesus, if they went further and believed that he was the Messiah, and apparently many of them did, they believed that he had come to set up his kingdom and he was going about to start his rulership there in Jerusalem. And so even the children are turned on to that, acknowledging that here's the long-awaited Messiah, the Son of David, who will rule and reign upon the throne of David. And the scribes and the Pharisees, the chief priests and so forth, they're upset over this. They should have been rejoicing right along with those people and welcoming Jesus with the honor with which he was due, but we know where their hearts are at, okay? And verse number 16, the Lord responds to them saying, verse number 16, and said to him, do you hear what these children are saying? And Jesus said to them, yes. Have you never read, now he quotes from the Old Testament, actually Psalm 8 and the second verse. Out of the mouth of infants and nursing babies, you have prepared praise for yourself. Okay, so he's giving them a scriptural reference that sets a precedent for exactly what is occurring right then. And it is a subtle, maybe not so subtle, calling of their attention to the fact that Jesus was God. Because when you think about it, Psalm 8 and verse number 2 says, out of the mouth of infants and nursing babes, you have prepared praise for yourself. The yourself and the you in that verse is obviously referring to God. And who were these children praising? Hosanna to the Son of David. It's directed towards Jesus. And so Jesus is, I was going to say in essence saying, but he's really not just in essence. He's coming out and declaring, I am worthy of praise that is due to God, which he prepares for himself from the mouths of little children. And of course, what the psalmist said in Psalm 8 and verse number 2, it was out of the mouths of infants and nursing babies you have prepared praise for yourself. And a lot of interesting thoughts along those lines. I don't want to try to dig too deep into it lest we get lost in a black hole. But I've talked before on our program about the fact that children are innocent in God's eyes, and should they die prematurely, they're not going to go to hell. They're going to be welcomed into the kingdom. To such as these belongs the kingdom of heaven, said Jesus. And of course, that's certainly true of nursing babies and infants as well. They're tinier, in my mind, than little children or children. So are we to think that maybe those funny and sometimes unutterable, I shouldn't say unutterable, I should say what nonsensical would be a word for it, the little things that come out of the mouths of nursing babes, the little goo-goo gagas, and the things that little kids say, that even that is designed by God as secret praise unto himself. I don't know if you ever listened to the funny sounds of little kids that they make and thought those thoughts based upon this verse. Well, maybe from now on you will. I oftentimes think about that when I am out in God's creation amongst nature, and I hear all of the sounds, the crickets cricketing at night, and the frogs chirping, and the birds singing, and all of these various sounds that we hear in nature. And I think to myself, God is the one who created these creatures, and maybe they're all just mating calls. I don't know exactly, but it just seems to me that it does certainly make me think about God, and it makes me praise God when I think about all of it and I experience it, and I just wonder, well, maybe there's some praise rising up to God from his creation. Okay, and there are some scriptures we could delve into. I just don't want to, all right? So we come to verse number 17. He left them and went out of the city to Bethany, and he spent the night there. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question as we shut this down. Jesus stayed in Bethany that night. Where in Bethany do you suppose he stayed? This is Bible trivia right now. Where do you think Jesus stayed in Bethany that night? I'll see you next time.
HeavenWord 7 is made possible by the financial support of viewers like you. Thank you.